Integrating Video Game Design Elements into Education by Joseph Strasser. The current state of educational gaming. Educational gaming is something that is largely overlooked within the video game industry. This is clearly illustrated by the fact that in a recent publication by the Entertainment Software Association, the major trade organization for video games that is also responsible for rating video game content, in their 2013 sales and demographic usage data, Essential Facts About Computer and Video Game Industry, the word education is used only once, and that is a reference to the fact that 71% of parents believe that video games provide mental stimulation or education. In fact, the ESA doesn't even recognize educational video games as a standalone category. Which begs the question, is this segment of the market just disproportionately underserved? Or is the market just not willing or able to support educational video games? Which begs the question, who plays video games? According to PEW research, over 50% of adults play video games, and a whopping 97% of teens also play video games. Why isn't there a market for educational video games then? Furthermore, if the market doesn't exist and so many young people play video games, how can teachers utilize video game design elements in their daily curriculum? There are currently around 250 educational video games that I was able to locate. And when I say 250, that's 250 titles ever. That's a rough estimate, and it's probably slightly higher. But with an estimated 100,000 video game titles ever produced, that represents just one-fifth of the total market share. One-fifth of a percentage of the total market share of all video games ever produced. Let's look at some of the top video games right now. We have My Coach, Civilization, Rita Rabbit, The Magic School Bus, Endless Ocean, SimCity, Dora the Explorer, Little Big Planet, and Portal. Now these are just some of the video games that are either educationally themed or have some educational value to them. Currently, video games are mainly used as a supplemental tool in classrooms, reinforcing very broad, general, and often foundational topics. The main problem with integrating video games into the classroom are twofold. First, the video game must contain content that matches the curriculum. There is no use in having students play games that have nothing to do with what you're learning. And second, the instruction must complement or coincide with the video game being used, which is often very difficult or impossible to do. Teachers don't have the luxury to take time out of their day to allow students to play video games. Though teachers have found ways to incorporate abstract concepts of certain games into their curriculum. But as stated earlier, the games lack a true connection to the curriculum, and teachers often lack the time and resources to allow students to explore what are often complex and time-consuming environments. These situations are rare in real life and even rarer in literature. Some pilot programs are underway to bridge the gap between education and video gaming, but results have yet to be seen. Let's look at the effects of video games on students. For many years, video games have been viewed as having a negative impact on children and their behavior in general. Studies have shown that initial concerns about the effects of video games may have been overly generalized based on what the actual evidence is. Let's look at some of the effects of video gaming. In the classroom, several studies have been done that link video gameplay to lower academic achievement. These studies relied heavily upon self-reported data and suggest that unmeasured variables may have contributed to the findings. What these studies really do is bring up more questions and suggest that overall lifestyle may play a bigger role in the findings than the video game specifically. Regardless, these studies do show that students who engage in video gameplay tend to do worse in school. There are a few studies that have taken video games into schools. One such study had a group of students complete a lesson and then take a quiz to see what they had learned. One group was given the lesson in text form on a computer and had to read the information. The other group was given the lesson in the form of a game with an open world design that allowed the students to freely roam and explore. Though to complete the lesson, there was a preset task that they had to accomplish. The results of the study showed that students who were given the video game lesson did significantly better than their text-only peers, indicating the potential for video games as a learning tool. In the real world, there is a great deal of positive information about video games when it comes to the other aspects of children's lives. Several studies have shown the benefits of video gameplay on sensory perception. Studies have shown that regular video gameplay of those who play more than 4 hours a week had increased ability to track moving objects, especially when there were many other objects meant to distract them. That indicates that video game players have the ability to discriminate between important and unimportant objects much quicker than their non-video game peers. One study linked video gameplay to inattentiveness and compulsive behavior. So the study did beg the question, are video games causing the inattentive behavior, or are inattentive children just drawn to video games? Let's look at the current research in gaming in the classroom. First, we'd have to ask, how do we take video games into the classroom? And then we'd have to ask, what keeps people gaming? As we've seen thus far, video games have both positive and negative consequences. Though it would beg to reason that video games aren't going away, and literature does suggest that students are being stimulated with video games to a degree far greater than in the classroom. All of that brings us to the issue at hand. Let's see what keeps people gaming. Overall, it's 5 aspects. The first aspect is the social aspect. Social features include things like the ability to talk to friends, the ability to go into clans, and the ability to display your name on leaderboards. These things allow users to interact with each other, solve problems together, and game together. Secondly, we have manipulation and control. Manipulation and control features include features like user input, the ability to save games, and player management, such as heads-up displays, which give the player a great deal of information about what's going on in the game at one time, as you can see from this graphic. Next, we have narrative and identity features, which are features that allow players to tell stories and design avatars. These give the player the ability to personalize the experience and experience the game from a perspective that they wouldn't normally be able to see. Fourth, we have reward and punishment. Reward and punishment include features like game rewards, trophies, achievements, experience points, and beating the boss. These are things that players have to accomplish that are very difficult tasks, or tasks that players wouldn't normally undertake, that are more difficult than normal tasks, that provide a sense of accomplishment once the player achieves them. Finally, we have presentation. Presentation includes those features like graphics, franchise features, explicit content like violence, drug use, or nudity, and in-game advertising features. These are very difficult to replicate in real life, as they have to do with how the video game looks. So things like brand loyalty are very important to some video gamers, and game loyalty is also important, as gamers will come back and buy games over and over again from the same companies or from the same titles. Now, when we talk about integrating video games into the classroom, what we want to do is look at each aspect individually. As far as social aspects go, one of the biggest leaps forward this current generation of gaming has supplied is the ability to play games and interact with people all over the world. Kids like experiencing new things, and they like talking to their friends. Allowing students to discuss their feelings and strategies about their work may just give them the incentive or inspiration they need to get something done. Having places where kids can go to talk to other kids or resources they can use to figure out problems is a key feature. Manipulation and control features allow the user to have control over the environment. Integrating them into the classroom means giving up some control and allowing the students to have more say over what they learn, how they learn it, and what pace they want to learn. This is one of the more challenging aspects to incorporate because it can lead students to losing focus or not making adequate progress. These things can be combated by enhancing the lesson with other features that I've discussed. If students are really invested in what they are doing, they will want to get it done. Narrative and identity features provide the context and background to the game. In the classroom, they can be integrated by making stories or scenarios out of problems and situations for students to solve. They allow the student to become unbound from reality and stretch the limitations of imagination, and possibly to accomplish things that they don't believe they could accomplish. Allowing students to think outside the box and assume different personalities gives them the ability to see things from different perspectives and to think of things in a way that they never imagined. Reward and punishment features are most similar to classical conditioning and are among the easiest elements to incorporate in the classroom. Video games get players to do things just by offering simple in-game rewards, achievements, or trophies to players. These rewards can help them for the rest of their mission, or they can be completely ornamental, meant to show your fellow gamers what you have accomplished. Taking these elements and integrating them into lessons by having students complete a specific problem that is difficult to get a hint for later problems, or keeping a leaderboard for assignments or behavior can add a fun and competitive aspect that can motivate students to accomplish more. Don't you always want to see your name on a leaderboard? And finally, presentation. These features are among the most difficult to incorporate into the classroom because they deal with the presentation of the game itself. That is not to say that they can't be done. The fact that the game looks like a real world puts the player in a real world situation is the key to many of these features' appeals. Incorporating real-world environments and scenarios into the lesson, using real brands and logos, the student can identify and use bright colors and graphics whenever possible, and just some of the ways that teachers can utilize these features. Having access to a projector or some form of computer screen can also be very helpful in illustrating concepts that are very difficult to comprehend. Students are used to seeing computer screens, so let's look at the evolution of gaming. As video games have progressed from the novelty item to a staple in the modern entertainment, the method by which games are delivered has changed. From the first console games to the current generation of tablets and smartphones, the way we game has changed drastically. Let's look at the global trends in gaming. As we can see here, console gaming has gone down 1% year over year, but over here mobile gaming has gone up 35%, which shows us that the trend is towards mobile gaming and what is also multiplayer online games, which are some of those social aspects that I was talking about. These two categories are poised to grow the most and be the most influential in the coming years. What all this means is that we should start to see more education-based applications from smartphones and tablets as those devices begin to take hold in our culture. However, with rapid pace of what technology evolves, we could begin to see new devices like this take the place of tablets and smartphones. Google Glass is the first of augmented reality generation to be released with some sort of worldwide capacity. What changes could these devices like this bring to learning? Having the ability to ask a question and see the answer pop up in your field of vision would make learning much different. When the world's information is worn on your face, and learning may have to do with something may have to do more with sorting through and deciphering information rather than remembering. We are also beginning to see virtual reality applications that allow individuals to be put into simulated worlds. Imagine taking a field trip to the Egyptian pyramids without even leaving the classroom. With virtual reality, this is a possibility. Regardless of what the future holds, we can now see integrated video games with our daily lives. I believe we need to do further research to understand the best ways to incorporate these technologies in our learning environments. There is not even close to enough literature about video games in education, even though almost every student plays video games. I also believe we need to take a good look at the current system of education. If we believe that every person is a unique individual, why do we insist on educating everyone the same way? Technology will allow us the potential to harness the individual and to tailor the experience to them. Hopefully we'll have the ability to see the true potential in technology.